I'm frequently asked, particularly by physicians, why I don't use the so-called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor antidepressants that began with Prozac and then a lot of Prozac copycats. And I think that it's important to explain why there is this fundamental difference between trazodone and the SSRI agents. Now, as I think I've said in other episodes, that trazodone has the capacity to provide a small amount of serotonin because it's intrinsic in its molecule that this effect is available, and thereby it sets in motion a process of deep restorative sleep that will multiply the little bit of trazodone, the jump start of trazodone that has been available at the beginning of sleep. So at the end of the night you have maybe 3 or 4 times as much serotonin as you started with. Once again, these things are not provable by actual measurements because we can't get at the brain to measure the serotonin that lies within. However, what ultimately emerges is that you are multiplying this serotonin that has been depleted by stress, and finally you get to the place where you get enough serotonin in the brain, and thereby you no longer need the external serotonin source, which is trazodone. Now, the SSRIs have a very special way of improving depression, and this is how it happens. I'm going to give you a visual display. Here are 2 nerve cells within the brain, and there's a gap between them called a synapse, and the synapse is bridged by the chemical messenger serotonin. So when it crosses the synapse and connects with the neighboring nerve cell or neuron, it sets in motion a stimulus that goes through the rest of the brain, and then the job of serotonin is done. So what happens to it? Well, it's sent back to where it came from. That's called reuptake. Now, reuptake, what is it supposed to do? Well, reuptake is supposed to inactivate and render actually useless the serotonin that undergoes that process. But the SSRIs are reuptake inhibitors, so that they block the inactivation of serotonin and thereby allow it to recycle many times. A single molecule of serotonin goes around many times, and again, we can't measure how many times, but the point is, it's that recycling, and that it's not a multiplication, but recycling that gives the lift of mood that is so powerful and so much better as an antidepressant than trazodone itself. However, at the end of the night, at the end of the day, there's no more serotonin from Prozac or the other agents like it than what you started with. So there is no way in which you can replenish the depleted brain serotonin in this fashion. In fact, the SSRIs are frequently found to put weight on people. It's mysterious why they do this, but they certainly do not help with the weight loss program that we had in mind and which we feature in our practice. So there's a very important difference here. Now, following this, there's the other question that comes up. Is trazodone, which is our favorite medication, is it addictive? Is it dependency-inducing? And I think I can tell you that by answering this with the explanation that trazodone is not only not addictive and not dependency-inducing, but it actually, by building up more and more serotonin as the nights go by, it makes itself less and less necessary. So therefore, ultimately, when the time comes, and this is something that has to be judged on the basis of whatever stress is still remaining in the person's existence, then you can slowly withdraw it on a stepwise fashion, so that over a matter of 4 or 6 months, by decreasing the dose of trazodone, gradually you can come off of it without getting any relapse in terms of the cardinal symptoms that would show that there's not enough serotonin. They are carbohydrate cravings, and the other one would be daytime fatigue. And if you get by without any of those emerging as you're taking the medicine away, then you have and can conclude that the brain has been sufficiently facilitated to do the job of giving the serotonin that the body needs, and the drug is no longer necessary. So therefore, unlike the agents that do make addiction this drug actually makes itself less and less necessary and ultimately unnecessary.